Hello, everyone. I would love to learn more about where you're from. So if you can just drop in the chat where you're from, where you're calling in from, I would love to hear more about you as we kind of warm up to get started with today's talk. I am based out of Santa Clara, California. So I'll put that in the chat as well. Okay, awesome. Hi, Caitlin. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because we only have a limited amount of time today. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me afterwards during Day of Security. I'm also in the Slack as well. So to quickly introduce myself, my name is Neha and I work as a security product manager at NVIDIA. And today I'm really excited to talk to you all about turning security strategy into action and diving into how your organization can create a strong security engineering program. So, a bit about myself before we dive into today's topic. I've been at NVIDIA for about 2 years now, and I've pivoted from launching internal products and features to launching external product lines. And so I've worked with different teams touching everything from threat detection, incident response, code signing, and secure development. I'm also heavily involved in our training and awareness program, enabling our organization to reinforce those security best practices in a super fun and engaging way. Prior to NVIDIA, I was at UC Berkeley, where I studied electrical engineering, computer science, and business administration. And throughout my journey, I've also worked at a few places like Meta and SAP. A lot of what I do boils down to shaping security strategy and enabling others to action on that strategy, hence today's title of the talk. And I love that cybersecurity and my role enables me to be creative and incorporate my personality into everything that I do and have a lot of fun along the way. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I remembered how much I've always been curious about people and the way that they work together. Human behavior is a really complicated field of study due to the diverse nature of backgrounds and environments that make up individuals. And when you look to bringing together a diverse and multidisciplinary group of people together to solve difficult problems, this can be super useful to provide an overall understanding of your problem, holistic solutions, and also to speed up progress. The world of technology and security is especially interesting to me because things rapidly move. There's always emerging threats to consider and ways to move security across the organization. There's potentials for zero-day vulnerabilities that need patch fixes. There's compliance and regulation efforts, and so forth. And so this lens of security and the challenges that come with it is what makes bringing people together so much more important and super interesting to understand. And so in a regular setting, you may rally the team to build a product or make a plan or make a decision to enable some kind of business outcome. But in security, you're bringing people together to protect an organization's people, its products, and its customers. And so it's not just about problem solving efficiently, but also understanding the threat and risk factors at play and how quickly as an organization we need to act. And so today I wanted to highlight how to build resilience and adaptability in the way that we plan and develop solutions to make organizations more secure. And so as we learn more about impending security threats, we can quickly rally the team to adapt our program to account for them. So today I'm going to share some important lessons that I've learned about building a security engineering program focused on collaboration. I'll also walk you through some examples of how to practice these learnings and also provide any resources and answer questions at the end. So let's go ahead and jump into it. One of the first lessons that I wanted to share is all about adopting this threat-informed approach to planning. When you're looking at traditional engineering road mapping, you're typically focused on meeting your users' needs or building features for different use cases. And traditionally, you'll follow this cycle of designing, building, deploying, and iterating. In the world of security, you're doing something similar where your users are now your employees. Your use cases are the security challenges that your employees face, and the features that you build make security easier for your company. However, there's this added layer of complexity, and that's all about being threat informed. And so, why is this added layer of complexity so important? Traditional engineering planning may not always account for new and emerging threats. And so we can look at the security challenges internally that our organization faces, but we also need to be ready to adapt to the changing landscape where adversaries are constantly evolving. And so as our adversaries, their tactics and threats evolve, so does our security strategy and the solutions that we build in security engineering. And so by having this threat informed approach to planning, you're able to proactively strategize for security threats, either seen internally or externally, and then prioritize different services to build. So, how do you do this? Start with what you have. Look within your organization and leverage the diverse and multifaceted team members that you have. Analyze incident trends from your incident response team. Consider different challenges that are faced by your employees or customers, or think about how to streamline different security operations to decrease identified risk. Security engineering solutions don't need to have a specific focus area. They don't need to have this one size fits all approach, but they do need to tie back to evolving threats or risks to the company. So let's take a look at an example. So to set the stage, you're part of a security engineering team in an organization that develops software solutions, and you're working to build out a security engineering program to help your developers in your company with the security of the products that they're shipping out. So in this case, your users are the developers of your company. Your use cases are the pain points that your developers are facing, and the features that you prioritize and build are those that help security easier for your company. And so let's dive into our first tip, which is all about adopting a threat-informed approach to planning. So start again with your organization, what you have. Look at trends that you're seeing with your developers. Maybe you're seeing an increase in phishing attacks, for example. Also look at what's happening in the industry. So for example, supply chain attacks have been increasingly relevant in the news. And so since we're seeing these emerging threats of, let's say, supply chain attacks, we can use that to inform, to build and prioritize, to protect our own developers. And so maybe it's focusing solutions on securing supply chain at first, like a code scanner. Or let's say later down the line, there's another emerging threat in, let's say, adversarial AI. Then we can adapt your security engineering program to account for those potential threats as well. And so by building this threat-informed approach to planning, you can ensure that your security engineering program remains up to date, relevant, and effective in developing solutions to protect your own organization. The second tip that I wanted to share with you all is all about creating intentional and unified security initiatives. So let's break down this tip into different sections to understand both the why and the how. And so in simple terms, the initiative is a simple or specific project to achieve a goal or an objective. This can be large scale, this can be smaller scale, but it's time limited and has a specific success criteria associated with it. So for example, your initiative could be that you wanted to enable all of your developers to decrease AWS cloud costs by some amount annually. And so all of the features that you would develop, like the reporting, the engagements, really anything like that, would fall under that initiative to end by some date. When looking at initiatives, it's also important for them to be unified. And what I mean by that is focusing that we're ensuring on using the whole team. And you'll hear me say that a lot today. Ensuring that we have all the subject matter experts in the room to guide on those requirements, the design, and the success criteria. And this could include input from incident response to inform you of what you're seeing in incidents. This could be security architecture for design considerations, risk management for identified risk, or compliance for any regulatory requirements that are needed for a particular initiative. And that's where this factor of bringing people together becomes so important. And when you have all of these different subject matter experts with all of these different perspectives and backgrounds, you're collecting this wide set of information to capture within your initiative. And while this may seem daunting, it's actually one of the best ways that you can ensure you have alignment across the organization. Sometimes your incident management team might see a particular trend that your risk management team wants to track, and your initiative in security engineering may solve that problem. And so by using the whole team and bringing together these diverse and multifaceted people together, you're setting yourself up for success in the longer term as you continuously evolve your program. And lastly, with unified initiatives, it's super important for them to be intentional. And so depending on the bandwidth or the scope of your engineering team or other stakeholders, It's so important to be realistic about what you can actually accomplish. Sometimes in security, we get too caught up with, oh my gosh, this is the ideal state, this is where I want our program to be, that we often forget about the constraints or the limitations that we have. And so, by ensuring that we're being intentional with these unified initiatives in terms of timing or scope or budget, we're also ensuring that we're being more realistic with our program roadmap than to accommodate all of those threats that we're bringing in as well. The third lesson that I have today is ABP. Always be prioritizing. And this, in my opinion, is super, super important. At any moment's notice, a new threat could emerge and that needs to be addressed, or maybe a strategic decision happens that shifts your roadmap. And in situations like these, having a place where you can see your roadmap at a high level and prioritize where your business biggest investment areas are is super critical. And there are a ton of tools out there that can help you do that, like Jira, Asana, or even just using a spreadsheet. And so, any way of capturing these investment areas and building out this program roadmap helps you to quickly make decisions on different priorities when new information comes to light. So, how do you do this? This is where you leverage your team of subject matter experts, again, using the whole team to help you prioritize based on the information that you have, whether it's a regularly scheduled meeting or an email or whatever your organization's communication style is. So here's some tips that have found to be super helpful. So first, reviewing the program roadmap with your team and subject matter experts across the security team and looking at, hey, where are we now and where are we headed? Looking at any new information that's come to light, whether it's an emerging threat or whether it's a strategic priority shift, then reviewing how that new information may impact your program roadmap and make adjustments to timelines or priorities or those investment areas as needed. Fourth, discuss with your stakeholders, how does that change impact the rest of your stakeholders' roadmap? Let's say something that you are making a change to in security engineering impacts your risk and compliance roadmap for some certification. So it's important to align on making sure that we're all on the same page. And then finally, communicating any findings to the wider security team, making sure, again, that anyone is able to see the changes that you made and where your new investment areas are, if any. So let's take a look at an example. And so these are three different initiatives that I came up with, focusing on different aspects of securing the organization. So we have machine learning for advanced phishing detection, we have API-enabled IP deny list for embargoed nations, and document security enforcements on collaboration platforms. Each have their own priority and each have their own set of stakeholders. So let's say your organization has recently seen an increased uptick of incidents revolving phishing. So let's follow the steps that we talked about to see how we would reprioritize our roadmap. So first, we would talk to our subject matter experts, in this case, our incident responders, our training awareness domain experts, and others to understand how this uptick of incidents impacts the organization. Because we're seeing an uptick, we could adjust the stack ranking of initiatives to be the following. However, this may affect the training and awareness roadmap for any sort of communications that may need to go out or any sort of training. So making sure that we're aligning with our stakeholders and understanding, hey, what impacts would this make if I put more investment in this? So by proactively prioritizing and communicating any changes to these roadmap, you're ensuring that not only does your program roadmap stay up to date, but your stakeholders and your subject matter experts also have a say in your prioritization. Again, going back to that phrase I love using the whole team to solve your problems and prioritizing leads to aligned results and this overall beautiful program roadmap that you can share with your stakeholders. The fourth tip that I have is all about measuring security success, Once we've established what our program does and the priority of which we're going to execute on, we need to look at how do we know how well we're doing? And measuring security success doesn't always have to be straightforward. Unlike many other business metrics, security can be quite elusive because it's not just counting dollars or numbers. It's about how are we protecting data systems or the trust of our users. And so these metrics tell us a story about what does protection really look like. So you may hear a phrase thrown out called KPI or key performance indicator. And this is a quantifiable way to track progress or success. Without KPIs, you may not have a clear understanding of whether you're making progress towards an initiative. So here's an example. Let's say you have a service that has a digital signature to software code to verify authenticity, a code signing service. A metric that you could have is that you're signing 1 million assets are digitally signed. However, by itself, that doesn't really tell me much about how well my code signing service is doing. And so let's shift that to a KPI and say 70% of assets that are shipped to customers are digitally signed. This would include that million asset signed figure, but it tells me more about how well we're driving towards our goal of, let's say, 90% or 100%. So, how do you create really great KPIs for security engineering? Take a look at how you can create KPIs in three key areas: maturity, coverage, and effectiveness. And maturity looks at how well developed or evolved a solution is over time. So, this is things like completeness or stability or optimization of a solution. Coverage looks at to what extent a solution reaches its intended audience or fulfills a purpose. It focuses on scope or reach of the solution's platforms. And effectiveness looks at how well the solution produces desired outcomes. And this is likely going to be the area that has the most KPIs. And that can include general metrics like percentage of assets that I talked about. So, in the context of code signing, let's create metrics for each. A metric for maturity could be surrounding scalability, for example. Coverage could be types of assets that are digitally signed, and effectiveness could be, again, that percentage of assets signed in a particular quarter. So, developing these KPIs and continuously measuring the impact of your security engineering initiatives can help you guide your program to success. My final tip is all about building resilience and this ability to pivot. And so, with the fast paced nature of security, resilience is our shield and agility is our sword. Resilience isn't just a nice to have, it's a must. And when we're addressing this landscape where threats can come from all different directions, adversaries are not waiting for organizations to become prepared. So, resilience means this ability to absorb shocks or adapt to new challenges and stand strong in the face of adversity. And so, it's equally as important to build agility and be able to pivot when new information comes to light. And so, when a new threat or risk emerges or a new customer need comes to light, a security engineering program needs to be able to analyze, strategize, and respond effectively. However, here's the challenge. When we aim to be agile, we also need to ensure that security isn't compromised. And so, to balance this, focus by having these processes embedded within your program. It should come natural. Any good organization needs to account for both breadth and depth. And when we use the whole team, we can have a breadth of diverse experiences that covers many different aspects of security. But this process that we're enabling helps us to dive deep into specific initiatives and solve different core problems. And so, how do you do this? Start with the subject matter experts. How does your intentional unified initiative change in scope with a new and emerging threat? Does it need to completely pivot or just change slightly? What experts can you pull in? How quickly can you modify requirements? And how can you rally the team to swarm and move forward with the new plan? How are you going to measure success? Basically, taking all the tips that I talked about before and building on top of each other to tell this story and be able to quickly pivot as new information comes to light. So, to wrap up for today, I wanted to take a step back and share a little bit about when I first started in cybersecurity. I remember being super intimidated by how fast paced cybersecurity is and how many different elements there were, especially in security engineering. But it was because of the people that I was surrounded by, my team and my organization, that I realized that even though that cybersecurity feels like it's go, 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 by really leaning on my team and members, it doesn't really feel as scary. And so here's a picture of me on the side on my first day at NVIDIA. And I think to myself, if only she knew then what she knew now. And so I told you about these 5 tips, but we only have a limited amount of time together. So if you remember nothing else from this talk today, let it be these 3 things. First, use what you got: incident trends, industry trends, employee feedback, whatever you have on hand, that can help you inform your program roadmap. Something is better than nothing. Second, use the whole team. Collaboration is key, and using that whole team enables you to have a wide breadth of knowledge across different domains, but allows you to go deep into specific areas. And lastly, always be prioritizing. Security moves fast, adversaries don't wait, so why should you? And so consistently building in ways to reviewing your roadmap and adjusting as needed to meet the needs of your organization is super critical. Here are some resources on the screen. I'll also share the slides once I figure out how to do that. This talk is also recorded, so you can see it on YouTube. And thank you all so much for listening. I'm happy to take any questions. I don't know how to use the Q&A feature, so if you could put it in the chat, that would be amazing. But yeah, happy to answer any questions. Of course, thank you so much for joining. Okay, so our first question is, does being a security product manager require security certifications or deep technical knowledge? In my experience, it really depends on the types of products that you are developing. And so sometimes it can be helpful to have security certifications if the products that you're trying to build are very specific to the needs of the organization. Sometimes it can help to have a deep technical knowledge. But I would say in general, finding an organization that is accessible and has like different products that touch different aspects of security, but actually enable you to build really fun products in a way that's only in the context of security as opposed to being super deep in security is a great way to kind of break into product management. What has been the hardest part of getting people on board? I would say the hardest part about getting people on board at first is making sure that expectations are aligned. Sometimes different people have different expectations or wants or needs when looking at different ways that we want to prioritize different features in our security engineering roadmap. And so, a way to combat those expectations is when you're setting this process and embedding these best practices in place, setting expectations up front of, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want to get out of this engagement, and this is how I want to pivot our roadmap is really important so that your subject matter experts know how to be able to contribute. Awesome. How do you keep up with the super fast paced nature of cybersecurity in situations where you are able to scale up fast? That is such a good question. I would say it's really difficult to know absolutely everything that's happening in the organization in cybersecurity at all times. And so pick a few areas that you feel very comfortable with, that you're interested and excited about, and learn more about that through different podcasts or news articles, or even leaning on your peers. And the great thing about something like this strategy, when you're using the whole team, is that you have so many people who have different experiences and interests that they're learning more. So you can learn more from each other as well. How is it different being a security product manager as opposed to being a product manager? I would say, in terms of that nuance of security, it's all about adding this element of threat informed defense. And so I talked a little bit about this earlier, where it's so great when you follow this process of designing, building, deploying, and iterating. But this concept of understanding how threats can affect you and your organization and building security oriented products for that is what adds this specific security element for an SPM as opposed to a PM. Org structure question: where does the product management role sit within the security organization? So it really depends on the organization that you are in. From my experience, I've had friends who sit within a product management org separately. I sit within our security strategy and program org. So it really just depends, but that's like one, I guess, pointer for you as well. Is there a specific process or procedure or document that you have made to help guide through these concepts, such as a matrix? Oh, no worries for being late. In terms of like specific documents, I have not made one myself, but there are some amazing resources to kind of walk you through this in previous slides, and I'll make sure to share those out. How do you keep security engineering responsibilities from security tasks that should be taken on by the product engineering, or have the product engineer agree to take on security responsibilities? I think it really depends on making sure that you're setting those expectations up front. You as a security product manager or someone who's leading this program, your responsibility is making sure that, of course, your roadmap is aligned, everyone's on the same page. And so by setting those expectations early on and making sure that you have clear roles and responsibilities when executing on this roadmap is especially helpful. Awesome. So we're over time, but thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, feel free to message me on the Day of Security platform. There's a way to like select people and chat with them. So happy to answer any questions. But thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye.